amazing creator. He is someone who likes to show beauty in things, and he likes to show practicality in things. And he's someone that likes to restore. And so there's so many amazing things about him. And I'm excited for you guys to hear his heart and kind of the things that he's found along the way to find his purpose in what he's doing. So Cliff, thank you so much for being here.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Naomi.
Yeah, it's amazing. All the way from South Africa, but he's here in Canada. It's been cool to have people kind of from all over the place. I love the different perspectives because I think every part of how we grew up and where we grew up affects who we are. So it'll be cool to hear your story. So Cliff, when you were young, little boy, what were some of the things that you were drawn to, or what were some of the things that you felt like maybe I could be this when I grow up?
Yeah, I think as far as creativity is, man, when I was 4 years old, my dad gave me a squash racket and started strumming on the squash racket. And I think obviously just naturally started listening, and dad played music, and music was a massive part of my family. And I think so just the dreams just birthed from that place.
Love
Always
it.
a musician in some way or another. And yeah, that just sort of took shape along the way.
So your dad was a musician. So who were some of the other influences in your life?
There have been so many influences along the way, so many that I don't even remember. I mean, like, have you ever had it where, like, this face? There was this guy that just like said this one thing to you once when you were 10, and that just stuck with you for the rest of your life. You don't really remember the guy.
Totally.
Yeah, it's been like that. I think if I draw anything from anything, my family's been so close-knit. My dad and my mom are fantastic together, but I think they're genuinely polar opposites. And my dad's this really pragmatic guy. My mom is this dreamer. Together, there's this weird thing that sort of takes place. You sort of grab a little bit of both sides and try and navigate your way. So, I see people doing awesome things, individuals doing incredible things, but man, I think it's just people sort of come and they go, and you get a little bit of this as you go. I don't know if that makes sense. It's,
100%. And I can totally agree with you in that. Like, even sometimes it's friendships that I always find kind of weave in and out of your life at different times, and you pick up different things. So it sounds like your mom and dad influenced you a lot, and they both had kind of two very different sides that they brought to you. So growing up, what were some of the areas that you pulled from your mom when it came to like dreaming?
I think it's just that anything is genuinely possible. Like one of the things that happened later on in life, 16, so that is ages ago, I had this opportunity to go pro in skating, but I'm in school. My dad's South African, old regime, which means there's no ways you tap out of school. You got to finish it. So, but my mom is this dreamer. She's like, this is an incredible opportunity. He gets to see the world, like, let's do it. Why not? Kind of thing. And I think that's something that I've got in me from my mom's, man. That's just like, man, it's so possible. It's possible, dream big. Like sometimes we can put like a bit of a lid on it, or you can sort of, we sort of be trained to put a lid on it. Be like, let's be realistic about things. But my mom's not like that. She's like, let's go for it. So
that's amazing. So did you pursue it?
Yeah, it was ages ago. It was from 16, 17 up to my mid 20s or somewhere around there. Just a solid chunk of those years of your life. Did pursue it. Yeah, my dad finally buckled. He was like, as long as you finish school, boy. And I was like, of course I will, man. But yeah, it was 7-8 years of traveling around the world, skating for Red Bull, and a bunch of massive opportunity, which I feel like really formed a lot of who I am today. Yeah, really cool.
That's amazing. So you got to travel around the world. And so did you also carry that part with your dad that's like making sure you finish things and like probably, I'm sure, have a good work ethic and those things? Like, did you get that side from your dad?
Yeah, my dad's way. I mean, like, he was brought up anyway, you work really hard. When you find something good, hold on to it really tight. So I think there's elements of that I think are really good. I think when taken a bit too far. I think it's borderline a little bit unhealthy as well. But definitely, I think there's just this diligence that you find in the older generations. I'm not saying they're not there and present now, but I know in the older generations, there's this diligence that they have, and this, this knuckle down work, let's not be afraid of hard work. And I think I've definitely picked that up from my old man. So, that with creativity and dreaming and just putting in the work and, working hard comes up really quickly against entitlement and things like that. I have elements of that from my dad that I'm really grateful for, to be honest, but, it needs to be managed. We can find ourselves getting into that like work grind, work, you're like, am I working for the sake of work? Am I working towards something that's really giving me life?
Love that. So as you've navigated that process of, okay, what's the balance and all of that, was there times where you kind of went too far one way, or, what were some of the things that helped you to pull back a little bit?
Oh boy, what a good question. I think that tension, I don't know if that tension's ever going to go away, and I think it sort of plays into the timing of things that we dream. Like we dream up things and we think that this is something that we ought to pursue, but there's timing. Timing's always involved. And something I know about myself is that I love change so much that I've kind of figured that out about myself, that because I love it so much, when I got this idea or this dream, I know I'd do well to sit on that for a little bit longer instead of just getting up and going. And so I think that's that tension. It's like working towards something or working in something, being sort of faithful to what I'm busy with now. I would naturally lean more into the adventurous, throw caution to the wind, let's go, But I've learned that sometimes just hanging in there for a little bit longer is worth it, for the sustainability and longevity of that actual adventure, creativity, that dream. So it's a tension. It's a tension. Yeah.
I think so too. I think when you have a creative mind, depending on how far you are on the spectrum, it's really easy to have a lot of ideas and a lot of things that you're thinking about and wanting to do this, that, and the other thing. And sometimes it can almost paralyze you if you don't, like you say, probably sit on it and really figure out what's the first step and where to go.
I think it's necessary also just to point a light on the fact that, because I think sometimes when we speak about being creative or creativity, I think we naturally gravitate towards things like the arts, That's putting a cap on creativity. You can be extremely creative in academic fields, that's, so which we don't normally think that way. We don't think that is creative, but that is absolutely and completely untrue. There's people in the marketplace and that are working in academia that are just so creative. And so it's applicable to that as well, obviously, and just hanging on to that. It's not just the arts and the creating tunes and, do you know what I mean when I say that? I think we're naturally with our minds, but I personally believe that we are all inherently incredibly creative. And so we just express it in a way, whether it's with numbers or colors or paints or whatever it is. I think we're all creative. And so, we do well to remember that and speaking into it. I think it's good. Just good to sit and listen and, honor the things that you're thinking and, slowly sort of nudge your way forward in that.
I love that. I couldn't agree more. And I really hope that those of you watching can catch that. And I think about even creativity so much in entrepreneurship. You may not be creative in the sense that you make pictures, but even creating businesses and ideas and those things are very creative as well. So I love that you touched on that, because I think it is really important to not put yourself in a box of I'm not this or I'm not that. Because like you said, we all do have these parts to us, and it's really just tapping into it and letting that part of you kind of become alive. So for you, as your creative journey, you went from doing this like pro skating, you traveled around the world, and then where did you kind of end up next?
From there, went into the music industry. It was sort of like a really cool, seamless transition. Strange. Would never have planned any of that. Was in Switzerland for a little bit and had some downtime. And a friend of mine just introduced me to some software music creation. And I've been playing guitar, obviously, since I was like 5, 6 years old. And now all of a sudden I've discovered this way of capturing these sounds and these ideas and putting them down. And it was just the best thing I'd ever discovered. And like, so the transition from the pro skating life really just sort of, it actually introduced me to it, moved me into it. And I think I couldn't in good conscience continue on with my contracts when they were up. So I turned them all down and then decided to, I had honestly, no real sort of desire to pursue a career in it. I was just kind of like, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do this for a time. And it actually just led me to meeting the right people and, got invited into certain things. And that was the beginning of the next 5 or 6 years that music was my full-time career. And just sound creation, making sounds and writing and expressing these things that I've experienced in life. And it was so beautiful. Like, so you're doing 7, 8 years of traveling around the world and you're discovering things that, I don't know. I think there's something to be said about travel. I definitely don't want to put that on anybody to say that, like if you don't have an opportunity to travel, that you have been limited and that you are now hindered. That's not what I'm saying at all. But culture, it's just getting these textures and colors and meeting different people and then naturally fell into music and found this sort of this avenue of expressing these things that I've discovered. And so that was for the next 5 or 6 odd years. It went in a direction that was, I think it led to something for me in my life, a huge turning point in my life. But rollerblading, music, both creative fields, both aspects that are essentially, I think I was having this conversation with somebody today, like literally by definition being judged, so in the light and being looked at and being like, okay, is this good enough for me? Do I like what you're doing creatively? And I think along with that came a lot of formative years and thinking and trying to figure that out. Still trying to figure that out, to be honest.
I think we all are trying to figure that out, but it's nice to hear those inspirations that are just a few steps ahead. What I love about your journey so far and maybe some of the differences that a lot of other people maybe hadn't experienced is just your ability to dream. It sounds like because of the things maybe that your mom instilled in you, being able to take those risks and take those, changes into different things, like how you're saying it was seamless, but you were also, sounds like you were very open to those things. So what would you say to someone who, is fearful, like they know that things are coming up or there's things they want to do, but they feel afraid to like step into something completely different?
Yeah, that's a really good question because that has to be answered differently to individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I think we know that fear is not a good thing, and we say these things out loud and like, don't be fearful. And I don't know, you see people running around with banners and just, really sort of just shunning it, like sort of cutting it off. And of course, it's good. Fear is not good. Let's not operate out of a place of fear. But I think if we would be sensitive to the individuals, so if you're asking me this question, but that I personally can't give a broad stroke to it. You know why? But I would say to a person that your fears, where are your fears? Like, where are your fears rooted in? Like, if you've got these dreams, what are your fears? And, why is the fear louder than this? You think, like, it's so strange. Like my fear for, my fears are different to your fears. That's just how it is. And so to answer a question about these fears, like how do you tackle that? I think someone really should tap into to think more about their makeup. And, it's so helpful to look back actually, to look back with healthy lenses and just look at what you've done and where you've been. And I sometimes think there's so much more of a golden thread that we think that there are. Sometimes we think our lives are so random and crazy, and like, you're like, I've done 1,000 different things and none of them are connected in any way. But I honestly think that if you just take a step back and look, there's this golden thread along the way, which could easily speak into the fear that you might be experiencing, just that might shed a bit of light for you. I think it would take a moment to sit and look back. And I think there probably something there, that's going to speak into that.
Amazing.
If that sense whatsoever,
It's actually so cool that you said that because I think probably in almost every interview, I've been talking about these common threads. And it's really cool to see, someone's journey of where they started and where they are now, and just all of these little pieces that kind of stacked up on top of each other to get them to where they are now. So I love that you called it a golden thread. I think that's amazing. So for you, where are you now? Like, where has this journey of adventure and being open and all of these things led you to?
You know what? I would say it's led me to be, I've met my wife. Sure,
Yes.
I can give you the geographical answer, and I'll get there and I'll tell you what I'm busy with and what I'm doing. But I think, honestly, uh, over and above and always anything that we're busy with our hands, I think we're more than that. I think we're so much more than just the things that we do. I think that's a large part of our lives for sure. And I think the more of that is, I'm talking about family and, our connections with people and relationships. And, I think those things are infinitely more important than any of the things that you're doing. Those things that you're doing will come as a result of, and you'll operate in the things that you're doing as a result of where you feel like you belong with the people around you. And so, you know, my life experiences and this willing to take risks and adventure, definitely, my wife and I met in an unusual way, and online, and it wasn't a dating app. And so like we had to take some crazy risks. We really do. My wife and I had to take some really, really big risks. But I think because of the life experiences and having seen risk sort of unfold favorably, yeah, it plays into that, and it's led me to meet my wife, and and for me and my wife to be together. When we posed the questions, like, well, she's from Canada, she's from right here, and I'm from South Africa, obviously, as Naomi said. But we weren't sure whether I'd be, should we go to South Africa or should I come here? And we just felt like the answer was here. And so, to answer your question in a very roundabout way, it's led me to the beginning of my own family, and that is geographically on the map of Canada at the moment. So, yeah, working with an incredible organization called the Dream Center, just doing things that I genuinely think we're made to do. So,
I love it. So, what are some of the things that you do there? What do you do at the Dream Center?
yeah, so I guess if there's, for anybody who doesn't know, the Dream Center is essentially a safe place for people that are struggling with homelessness, addiction, and who have honestly put up their hand to say, I've had enough with this way of life, and I want to find wholeness. And so, there's a lot to that. So my role, I'm a maker of things, whether it's music. I love to work with timber, specifically with wood. And to be honest, with any medium, really. A lot of people call it carpentry. I'm not a carpenter. I'm not a studied carpenter or anything like that. I'm just a creative, and I love working with things artistically. And so it has led me to, I'll in a nutshell, I'll do a quick little backtrack because it'll give you context for actually how and why and what it is that I'm doing. I think 6 years ago, things changed really dramatically. And one of the first things I found myself started doing was starting to make and create things with wood. It was so bizarre. And my dad brought me into the workshop as a kid. We were just that family where if you need something, build it. That was how we got brought up. So had this kind of skill with the hands and experience, and then so that just started leading to one thing to another. And I ended up working with an organization called Viljoen, which means precious in Greek. And in South Africa, there's this crazy stigmatism with disabilities. And in some of the cultures in South Africa, they believe that if your child is born with a disability, that you are cursed. And that's a very real thing in South Africa. And so Viljoen makes equipment for kids with cerebral palsy. And we use that obviously to sort of create special needs equipment, obviously to better the lives of the child, but also as a means to get into the home and to speak to these families, to be like, you guys need to understand something a bit more, that your child is not a curse, you're not cursed, your child is precious, and that there is a way. And so timber, I just there was this wood connection with that, and that led to me at one point going to the Middle East and working with the Syrians that were coming from, obviously, the last 7 years in Syria, that incredible, terrible thing that's been happening there, to work with the refugees. And so to build a workshop over there, and it was skills training. Skills training is a strong word. It was really an excuse to connect with guys that couldn't be and hadn't been working for the longest time, for them, for one, to get busy with their hands, because that's healthy, and two, to build into their communities. And then while it was happening, I started discovering that there was this purpose, like we're discussing, purpose was being discovered. I mean, some guys realized that they really didn't enjoy woodwork, but that was a celebration, because they're discovering things that they don't like, which means that they're discovering things that they do inadvertently. It's quite a peculiar thing. And finally, to let you know, to answer your question, it's like when I came here to propose to my wife, I met the CEO of the Dream Center, and they were busy talking about this social enterprise that they're trying to sort of get off the ground, and it had been going for a time, but they needed a bit of direction. And and our hearts just kind of connected, because as much as I love woodwork, I love the person infinitely more than I do woodwork. And I've seen a model that works. And, depending where you are in the world, obviously you kind of shift and change it a little bit to match the space. But yeah, there's just something special about creativity, working with your hands. And now with the Dream Center, where people struggling with addictions, and yeah, it's just some really deep-seated stuff. This is a real small part of this, like a holistic sort of thing that takes place when someone puts up that up and just says, yeah, I want change. And so, yeah, I started working with the Dream Center to try and sort of get this social enterprise and just this aspect of a program, in inverted commas, yeah, just to sow into these guys' lives that are genuinely looking for change. And so woodwork, people, it's tied in together, it gives you an excuse and an engine and a platform to speak, ask questions and talk, and long wind.
No, it's so good. And I think, like, what I would love for you guys to hear is just that idea of a medium, and of, we all have, things that we're maybe naturally good at, or things that we've learned over time. But the bigger picture is who's on the other end of that, and who are you being led to, like, serve? Who are you being led to help? Who's the people on your heart that you're like, when you think of starting a business or starting a personal brand, like, who are the people on the other end of that? And so to think about your skills as a way to get connected to the people that you want to help is absolutely the whole idea of Brand You, is what can you offer. So I love that. And I love that, those things can change. It could be one day skating, it could be one day music, it could be one day working with your hands, building, whatever that may look like for you. Like, that's Cliff's story, but I think just connecting with that idea that you have something to offer, and it can be so beautiful to the person on the other side. Love that. So Cliff, now that you're, like, working in this space that you are now, and with all of the other things that you've done, and knowing that your heart is people, what are some of the things that you want people to feel, and what is kind of the legacy that you want to leave?
Yeah, the legacy. I think for the longest time, I mean, how do I say this? There's a number of ways I can go about it, but I think if I'm really honest, I never used to be a man of faith. I was just kind of, whatever, whatever goes. And 7 years ago, something really dramatically changed. I had this experience where I genuinely, for the first time, as far as I was concerned, that I just heard from this God of the universe. And so my faith had shifted from my faith in myself and the things that I was capable of doing into God. And I say all of that only to say this. I think we understand who God really is and who He's made you to be. And we're talking about purpose and calling and just make up, like, who am I? Like, we're all asking that question. We all want to know, like, who am I, man? What am I made to do? Like, and we get so caught up with purpose and calling. And, I think we get so stuck because I think we all know inherently that our purpose is to serve each other. It's to help each other, but we're not sure of the details of that. And so we think when we don't know the details, we don't think we know our purpose, but we know our purpose. We just don't know the color of it. That's all, and if anything, I just want people to sort of be connected. I for the longest time, I've always felt like I'm a bridge. My name means to be a bridge for one man to get to another place. That's what it means. And not to build bridge, but to be the bridge. And that has you feeling used, feeling like you've been used very often. And that would normally be the case in my old thinking. But I've come to discover this incredible privilege, that being a bridge for someone else to get to someone else or to something else, that's a privilege, and my thinking and my whole direction of life and it's changed once I've come to realize that. And so my legacy and things that I want people to remember me by is that, the way is that. You want people to know the way, and the way is to serve each other. And I think that's what I know. That's what I know of my life. Yeah, that's what I think we're about.
Yeah, that's like amazing. I think that you said it so beautifully. Sometimes we're confused with the details, but yet inside we know we're all called to serve each other, to help each other. And usually when you're creating anything, it's with the idea of helping somebody else, and so when you get a hold of that, it almost gives this, like, even when you were saying that, I'm like, I feel like people could just breathe for a minute, being like, I do know my purpose.
Yeah.
I do know what I'm meant to be. All I need to do is figure out which vehicle in which I get to do that. And I think that's such a beautiful thing to recognize that you do know.
Sure off, man. Like, because you start operating and thinking from a place of rest, and you realize, wait, I do. You know how many people I've spoken to? I mean, and honestly, like, so that's my personal conviction. That's my story. But, so, I've had conversations with guys that are like, yeah, but listen, I'm not a God man. I that's not my vibe. And I'm like, that's 100%. But when it comes to connecting with people and speaking to people, and I know this to be true, like, we think we're at our best. Sometimes we're at a place in our life when we think we're at our best, when we're just sort of taking care of ourselves. And it might take who knows how long to get to that point, but we do come to a place of realizing that I'm not doing well. And you might not have the language for it, you might not be sure why, but I know this for sure, that when you turn that around and start working with people, specifically for people, things start to change, whether you believe in God or not. It's just life starts to look different when you start doing things for other people. You start to recognize that there is purpose in this. I don't know what it is. We attach the details and we go, okay, man, I think I'm figuring out my purpose over here because I'm busy with this. And then you think, okay, that's my purpose. No, your purpose is really, like you say, it's serving, the individuals around you. And these details, they start working themselves out when we start becoming more relaxed and we realize, man, I love to do this. And I get to do this for this. And it just starts to sort of come in a line. And you get to start thinking from a place of like rest, instead of being frantic, like you're running out of time and you need to know what your purpose is because everything that you're doing doesn't seem to have any purpose. There's no worth to my, why am I even alive? There's no worth to it. You know what I mean? Like, that feeling? It's the work. Yeah.
And I think there's definitely people listening that have been sitting here being like, that's how I feel. I feel like I don't know, and I'm stressed, and I'm always trying to think and create. And one thing I know, like personally through this pandemic, is that how important it is to take that time to just be still and maybe just this little piece of gold will help you guys to just take that minute to say, I do know, and now I just need to relax in that. And then these pieces do come to you, I think, when you're still and when you're quiet and when you can connect with those things of who you are, what you love, what were you created to do, love it. I think that's amazing. Thank you so much, Cliff. So if somebody wanted to find you, is there ways for them to find you?
I work for the Dream Center at the moment, and if there's always opportunities to come and volunteer and to work alongside myself and other individuals that are doing this work. And if I was ever going to invite anybody into anything, it's to do just this that we're talking about. And we're in Calgary, you're based in Calgary. The context of this whole conversation, I know it might be broader, but it's physically in context of Calgary. And so, it's easy to go there. It's easy to go there and actually see the reality of some of the things that's happening. We can get a little bit caught up in our bubble. And if you go to the Dream Center, you can be shook and you can realize what's happening on your doorstep here in a Western world that is seemingly so perfect, but there's a lot of brokenness and a lot of people need help. So, come and find me there if you need to.
Yeah. I guess right now we can't take a bunch of people on a tour, but individually you guys can connect with that. Cliff, thank you so much. You have definitely added a really unique perspective, and I think that you've brought a lot of wisdom, and I hope that people kind of get that little aha moment and they can rest in that. So thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Awesome. So great to talk to you.